Call to order the Committee of the Whole meeting of June 6, 2020. Time is 7 p.m. Ben, would you please call the roll?
Member McLeeser? Here. Member Wyrick?
Here.
Member Warren?
Here.
Member Stroya?
Here.
Member Volt?
Here.
Member Matheny?
Here.
And Member Orr?
Here.
7 present.
Okay, let's start off with economic development. Daryl.
Perfect, thank you. We have for consideration this evening a proposal to expand the hours of our DORA, basically make it a 7-day event. This has come to our attention by Councilman Orr, so I'm going to kick it over to John right now if he wants to add anything to it, and then we'll go with the discussion.
Well, currently it's set up from Wednesday to Saturday, I believe, till Sunday, and Monday and Tuesdays are off. So I just think to be consistent, there are some holidays. I know we're going to be having a Labor Day fest and stuff of that nature. And for those Monday holidays, I just think it's the right thing to do, and it might bring more people to use the door and visit the establishments.
Let me start with Jamie on my far right, co-chair. Do you have any thoughts?
No, my only thoughts are is this has been a very successful program, and I look forward to seeing the days extended. So that's it.
Christine?
Agree. I think it's confusing that it's not on Mondays and Tuesdays. I don't think people realize that. So make it consistent at the days. It's a great program.
Stefan?
Same.
Same here.
David?
Just as a point of clarification, we might want to include daily, 12 p.m. to 11 p.m., because the way it's written, it could be construed as starting at noon and going 24 hours a day for the whole week and running through Saturday midnight or Sunday. Just, I think we need to amend that.
Why don't you try to
daily?
Go ahead and clean up the language a little bit and make sure it then reflects that. Okay, so on that particular item, I hear no objections. Again, to reiterate Mr. McLeeser's comments, we have found this to be tremendously successful. We've had the reports are that the businesses that are participating have experienced a significant increase in revenue at the times when the door has operated. And per the chief of police, we've had no law enforcement issues. So having said that, let me have a motion to place on the agenda for next Monday a revision in the hours pursuant to Mr. McLean's request. I'll make that motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, part two of this, we have a request from St. Paul's Catholic Church to amend the DORA legislation to include its parking lot. Before you on the screen is the area that, in green is the area in question. This will allow the DORA and the church to have activities in that spot, and would facilitate other events as well.
Is that the parking lot behind the chamber that
Yes.
they own?
Yes.
Okay.
And I should note, parenthetically, the chamber has also expressed an interest, as has Howling Bird. So we've got the support of the businesses that are in front of on the east side of the parking lot, and the owner of the parking lot has made the request.
And just for clarification, this is St. Paul's that is okay with it and asking for this.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes. Is there any discussion? To my right?
No, sir.
To my left? I'll make a motion that the map be so amended to include the parking lot as designated in the map.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Idea.
Okay, and finance and property. Stephanie?
This is regarding the rental registration, and we have kind of talked about how we're going to do the rental registrations and the software that's going to be included for those rentals. And I was talking to Mr. DiOrio today about that, and if you want to talk a little bit about that and the monies that will start this year, and then what will be budgeted for the future.
Okay, this is certainly a part of what Gina's appropriation of the funds, and she'll get into more detail on that from her end. But for purposes of the rental registration software, we're going to go with OpenGov. And OpenGov is a provider that we currently use in our finance department for our budget. And OpenGov has a dozen or more modules that can be used by municipalities and townships. We've spoken to a number of municipalities that use OpenGov, and as a user of it ourselves, we think that this would be the best term. We're going to go for right now just a 1.5-year term to coincide with the contract that we have with OpenGov and the Finance Department. So for this year, we have approximately, this would start July 1st. It gives us 6 months to get it up and running. It's approximately $9,000 for the software installation, and then the ongoing subscription to this is approximately $15,750 a year. Competitive with the others that we looked at, and that this one gives us the most control over actually writing some of the software, very user-friendly, and we look forward to getting it and moving it rather quickly for implementation, learning, and then January 1 start.
Okay, some of the other appropriation amendments that are listed, we are budgeting to try to true up some of the budget since we're nearly halfway through the year. We have the service union contract that we opened early and settled on, so we wanted to make some amendments for that. We have our seasonal hires for our parks department, so we needed to amend the budget for those hours. We had the occupancy grant for Akron Children's Hospital. So we actually reviewed 3 years and caught them up through the COVID years. And they are going to donate half of that back to us for our parks expansion project. So that was really good news as well. And some of the other things, again, are just truing up some of our line items so that going into tax budget season in August, we'll be ready to go.
Okay, any other questions? All right, we'll move to put that on the agenda. Second.
Story seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next we're going to move on to ordinance and claims. I'm going to make a motion. I'm going to ask for a second to suspend Council Rule 24 and instead require a 2/3 majority in order for items 5A through 5G to be recommended to the council, to be added to the council agenda in accordance with final passage requirements under Ohio law. So basically, we're going to need 5 votes to move this onto the agenda. So
Any of the items on the agenda.
any of them, right? Correct. So John, I'll let you kick it off.
Well, I'll make that, Revolt will make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
We have 5A, an ordinance to submit to the electors of the City of North Canton charter amendment for the purpose of altering the terms of office of elected officials of the City of North Canton and thereby establish a 4-year alternating term beginning on January 1st. So how I understand it, the mayor and the council at large seats would go first, and then the 4 council people would go after that, on that. So if I can have a motion, do we need that with you?
Discussion first.
Okay, do we have any discussion on that, or are we all?
Good idea.
Well, I think the other point is not only are there staggered terms, but we're also moving the term from December 1 to January 1. And pursuant to the administration's request or input, that is much smoother for other kinds of issues.
Well, consistent with what the county does
And it's
as well.
consistent
Yes.
with everything else.
I think we
It
were,
wasn't
It was
confusing.
January.
we were the only one, I think,
Yeah.
doing the December one.
Yeah, and I think that was for budgetary reasons back in the day. Is that a motion, Mr. Orr?
Yes, I'll make a motion.
Revolt will second.
Okay. Should we do we need to do a roll call vote, or should we do a roll call vote on this
We
one?
certainly can if you would prefer.
Yeah, let's do that. That way it's very clear. So, Ben, could you call the roll?
Member McLeister,
Yes.
Member Wyrick,
Yes.
Member Warren,
Yes.
Member Shroyer,
Yes.
Member Revolt,
Yes.
Member Matheny,
Yes.
Member Orr,
Yes.
7 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you, Ben.
So 5B is an ordinance to submit to the electors of the city of North Canton a charter amendment for the purpose of simplifying the notice requirements imposed on the clerk of council for special meetings of city council. So maybe you explain to you what you have to go through now and what you want to go through.
So by charter now, I'm to hand deliver you all notice or post it on your front door. However, if you show up at that special meeting, that is considered you have waived that requirement for notice. Basically, what this would change, and there's another exception in there, this would change it to there are no exceptions. I must always give you notice, but it doesn't have to be hand delivered or posted on your door. It must still be in writing, but it can be an email or a Teams chat or a text message or something like that. Member Volt asked me today what would happen if we lost all power and internet. And in that event, then I guess I would go back to
Or somebody.
hand delivering it and posting it on your front door.
And that still must be done within 24 hours, correct?
Yes, that must be done at least 24 hours before the meeting is to occur. That did not change.
And I do have a question. So we're removing the requirement for hand delivering. Do we need to specify the methods? Or just is it one of the above that you mentioned? Teams, email, text, phone call?
So as the amendment's currently written, it just says written notice. And at Charter Advisory, we did discuss, should we put email or something like that? And we sort of came to the conclusion that I'm sure that when this was written, hand delivery seemed like the best method. So, we put in email today. 40 years from now, is email going to seem like some
That's a good
stupid
point.
method?
Well, you think about the last year and just how many different ways there are to communicate, and people thought Zoom worked, and then they like Teams, and there's other formats. So I think you leave it vague. Written is together. I think that's clear.
Okay.
It'll be kept written so that there must be a record
Yeah.
of it. I can't just call.
Okay.
And if it fails, come back and amend the charter.
Okay.
Well, I'll make a motion.
Revolt will second.
Ben, would you call the roll?
Member Orr,
Yes.
Member Matheny,
Yes.
Member Revolt,
Yes.
Member Shroyer,
Yes.
Member Warren,
Yes.
Member Wyrick,
Yes.
Member McLeister,
Yes.
7 in favor, motion carries.
5C, an ordinance to submit to the electors of the city of North Canton a charter amendment for the purpose of clarifying the legislative process of the city of North Canton and establishing a distinct differences between ordinances and resolutions. They talked quite a bit about this. It's quite confusing, but what an ordinance is and what a resolution is, we really have to separate the two of them because they are completely different. So, any discussion on this or?
Is this also the ordinance to have only 2 readings for every ordinance? And I find that may not give the public enough notice. I don't mind the idea of a single reading for a resolution, but I think that for an ordinance that needs to be 3 readings and not 2. So I think unless we change that, I'm not going to be in favor of passing this one.
I thought they were against 2 readings on their, on that. I thought they went back to 3.
In the final version that made it out of charter review, there was just 2 readings.
Just 2 readings. I agree with Dave on what he said on that.
I'm a Luddite. I concur. I
Yeah.
like 3 readings.
Same here.
Just if I might, I've sat around council tables for many years. I've seen councils change their minds, 1 or 2 members at the 3rd reading. They'll give you 2. They want to let it percolate. They'll keep it alive. But when the 3rd reading comes, often to my profound disappointment, I've had someone walk away from it. I drank scotch that night. But seriously, I think to Dave's point, let's not lose sight of the fact that we are deliberative. We often may not have all of the information that we need at one time. We want to let things steep a little bit, and just that 3rd extra reading can give it back. So I would prefer that we keep reading.
I think we've been really responsive to where if we need to move things up, we add a special council meeting.
Yes.
We add something that still lets it percolate, but gives us that third chance.
I agree. We have other tools to
Yep.
address it.
Yep.
Yep.
State law requires 3 readings.
Sorry.
So I think what we, before we adopt it, when we just in discussion, we want to say, hey, let's,
Should we just vote? We can vote it down? Or vote it
well, I think we can vote it with the understanding that I'll make a motion that we amend this to read, this is page 20, section 1. We don't know.
Yeah, why would they do
Everybody,
that?
yeah, we wouldn't.
We would just keep
want to- So,
But you've got, don't you have the other, you have the other issues as well, correct?
well, we could, so there's 2 things. Someone can make a motion, and if there's not a second, it doesn't move forward, or second, it
Well, this is, well, first of all, you're establishing the difference between a resolution and an ordinance. That's part A. But part B is you want to strike 1-1 and make sure it says 3 readings.
I still was confused after reading part A. I didn't think that it did a good enough job doing it either, but.
This is the one, and Ben, would this be the format as it would appear to people voting?
Yes, so we do have to put the entirety of the old text and the entirety of the new text on the ballot language. So this one in particular would be quite lengthy.
This one scares me that people just stop after this.
Yep.
Like, I don't even understand what they're talking about.
Voter fatigue.
Yeah, and in
they
the,
vote
in the
down.
multiple meetings, that was kind of that's what everybody was saying. Because
Yeah.
it was very confusing at first, going back and forth for that.
Just
Yeah.
You know,
Can we drop the second half of that and just go with the first about resolution? Or
I like the idea of having a resolution where, it's spelled out what it can and cannot be versus what an ordinance is. I think that's very important, that a resolution can be passed in 1 reading, and that's what it's used for, and just change the ordinance to being 3 readings. I get it, there's a lot in here, but we're spelling out the difference between an ordinance and a resolution, and we're only changing the fact that a resolution requires 1 vote, but it's not spending money, it's not buying anything specific. It is simply a resolution.
expression of thought.
I
Yes.
guess I feel like we talk about it a lot. Gina, I feel like you continually say what a resolution is versus an ordinance. I don't know if that writing there is going to change anything.
It
I think
establishes.
it's a lot of time.
I think it established it in our charter, which is
Clarity.
important.
Yeah.
And then it sets it aside, and then the ordinance being 3 votes, so the public can attend, will make their voices known.
But we have 3 votes.
We do now, but we don't have the distinction. We have to have 3 votes for a resolution. Correct?
No.
Currently, we must have 3 votes for a resolution or suspend the rules of council.
or suspend
Typically
rules,
spend- Okay.
Right.
which is an
always-
extra action, which is by emergency. And I think clarifying this ordinance and resolution is the best move for the future.
Another change to note is that this amendment would make resolutions no longer subject to mayoral veto. And that's part of the reason for explicitly limiting what they can be used for, is that they should only be used for expressions of council's will.
Yeah.
Things that the mayor doesn't have discretion over, such as who you appoint to the Civil Service Commission, whether or not you say yes or no to a union contract with the mayor's administration negotiated.
Pursuant to Mr. Matheny's comment, I'm going to make a motion that we amend this proposed resolution 2022-3, and in section 1(1), we strike two different, and replace that with three different, preserving it, and also then clarifying matter resolutions. Further discussion.
Okay, Ben, could we have a roll call vote?
Member McLeister?
Yes.
Member Wyrick?
Yes.
Member Warren?
Yes.
Member Shroya?
Yes.
Member Volt?
Yes.
Member Matheny?
Yes.
Member Orr?
Yes.
Motion to amend carried.
Now, do you need a
Now I'll
motion?
make a motion to move this to council meeting. As
Revolt,
amended.
Revolt will second.
Ben, could you call the roll?
Member Orr?
Yes.
Member Matheny?
Yes.
Member Volt?
Yes.
Member Shroya?
Yes.
Member Warren?
Yes.
Member Wyrick?
Yes.
Member McLeister?
Yes.
7 in favor, motion carries.
John?
5D, an ordinance to submit to the electors of the city of North Canton charter amendment for the purpose of eliminating the requirement that legislation be published in the newspaper. We talked about that and how the declining of the newspaper there's just much better ways to get the communication out to the folks through the website, communications of that nature. And plus,
It saves us money.
it saves us a lot of money. It's very expensive. Any other discussion on this? Make a motion if we put this on.
Second.
Ben, would you call the roll?
Member McLeister?
Yes.
Member Wyrick?
Yes.
Member Warren?
Yes.
Member Shroya?
Yes.
Member Volt?
Yes.
Member Matheny?
Yes.
Member Orr?
Yes.
7 in favor, motion carries.
Thank you. John?
All right, 5E, an ordinance to submit to the electors of the city of North Canton amendment for the purpose of eliminating the budget deadlines of May 15th for revenues and June 15th for expenses. So we've heard about the difficulties it is to obtain these, and it's a lot better changing this. I think our finance director would agree on this.
Absolutely. We'll still continue to follow the county budgets, the alternative budget deadlines, and then into our normal budget timeline starting in October, November, October.
Any other discussions on this?
So I was wondering if we're creating voter confusion a little bit by eliminating those dates and not spelling out a future date for when the actual budget's going to be done.
I believe that these were in place when it was, we're changing the council and mayor elections to be from December to January. So now we're back to a normal calendar year. And that is also our fiscal year. So we'll be back on the regular deadlines for budgeting.
Right. In this, it states those dates, but it doesn't put a date in place that. So as Ben had mentioned, as the voters reading through this, they're going to see dates disappear, but no date replacing it. I'm wondering if it's going to create confusion that they're like, well, what is taking place? Or when is it due?
The budget needs to be adopted prior to January 1 every year. Or we can't
Right.
pay any bills or collect any
Okay.
money. So the normal budget deadlines, and then the county auditor, of course, requests the alternative tax budget.
I have
And I'll-
absolutely no doubt and complete faith that you are taking care of all those dates. It's merely the voters' confusion that I was concerned about, looking at it from the outside. Yeah, that's all. And if nobody else sees that, then I'm fine.
All right.
I mean, that's a good point, David. It is, I mean, to us that know the calendar, it's not confusing, but to the typical voter, it may be, we might want to look into spelling that out.
Just the longer you make it, the less they're gonna read.
It's true too.
Mhm.
Yes, sir.
I mean,
Just
is there a way for you
just
to remove the date?
just a quick question. I'm looking at the enabling language here. Could he simply insert a phrase for the adoption of a budget by January 1? Would that
It's
work?
innate in the process, but yes, I mean, you certainly can spell it out.
So this takes care of,
These dates were the exception to all other budget deadlines. So we just thought the charter review community or
I agree.
advisory board just wanted to remove them.
take it out, but to signal to the voters, you got to have a budget by January 1, even though the state
Yeah.
requires it and everything.
I like the January 1 and remove the May 15th and June 15th, right? But it doesn't matter to them. Like you said, it's innate in there. So these are just what it was. It is just going to confuse them. They aren't necessary for the ordinance.
Can you whip a little something up for January 1?
There are two sections of the charter being amended here. Which one would you like to put it in?
Good question.
So maybe it would be in the second one, where the verbiage changed to the May 15th of each year and shall assist the mayor in preparation of the budget. Instead of just saying shall assist the mayor in preparation of the budget, shall assist the mayor in preparation of the budget for January 1st deadline of adoption.
Yeah.
That tells everybody who's looking at it and voting on it that the budget will be in place by January 1st. Should we think about this and discuss it? We have time.
It's a time issue. Is it not?
Take your time.
No, it will be a time issue when you come back from break. So,
Several meetings before that.
we have 3 meetings before now break, so.
That's several.
These, I do not believe can be passed under suspension, so we would need, if something does not move forward tonight, we would need a special meeting to get it done. Correct.
5 out of 7 votes.
We have 5 out of 7.
Missing one person.
So are we okay with that change?
Gina? Your thoughts?
If you want to change both of them till January 1, the presentation begins in August and then October. There's a process in place.
Right.
So if you want to clarify that the budget has to be presented and approved by January 1, that's absolute.
Let's do that.
Vote to make that amendment.
Okay, so that's the amendment. I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Ben, would you call the roll?
Member Orr?
Yes.
Member Matheny?
Yes.
Member Volt?
Yes.
Member Shura?
Yes.
Member Warren?
Yes.
Member Wyrick?
Yes.
Member McLeister?
Yes.
7 in favor, motion carries.
5F.
I'll make a motion.
Oh, so
Make a
we're gonna-
motion that
yeah.
we move this to the council meeting as amended.
Troy, seconds.
Sorry about this.
Ben, would you call the roll?
Start in the middle this time. Member Shura?
Yes.
Member Volt?
Yes.
Member Matheny?
Yes.
Member Orr?
Yes.
Member McLeister,
Yes.
Member Wyrick,
Yes.
Member Ware.
Yes.
7 in favor, motion carries.
Thank you, Ben. John, 5F.
5F, an ordinance to submit to the electors of the city of North Canton a charter amendment for the purpose of altering a standard for potential removal of elected officials from office from 3 consecutive meetings to 5 meetings in a calendar year. We've talked a little bit about this, and something has to be said, I think, in this about an excused absence. And we defined what an excused absence is and what a non-excused absence.
No.
It gets tricky.
You know, this is one thing that I think we really have to define. And if someone's missing because of health reasons or something of that nature, they might have to, you know. I think we should maybe, I would be in favor of taking this off.
I really don't see much of a difference between 3 consecutive meetings and 5 meetings in a calendar year.
And what are we considering a meeting?
Well, yeah, well, and then you go down the rabbit hole of trying to define an excused absence and politics involved in that. I don't like it.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, it is.
It's a legal nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we haven't really had problems with people having unexcused. People have work issues, they have family issues, they have vacation. There really isn't much more that people are taking off for, in family items, all which have never been on council for 10 years, with someone said not excused. So,
Yeah, and who would be enforcing that? Would that be the president of council?
Patrick would come to our door, I think.
Don't want to go. Just don't want to go.
We just don't really want to,
yeah,
I think, approach this at this time.
I think we have council people that are very responsible. So,
Does not appear to be a motion.
Yes, if there's not a motion, is there a motion on the table?
There is not. Can we go to 5G?
Move on to 5G?
5G, an ordinance to
Can
submit,
you, before we move on, please state for the record the result of the lack of vote.
Okay, yeah. For 5F, there was no motion on the table, and therefore it's not going to move forward.
Died due to lack of vote.
all right, 5G, an ordinance to submit to the electors of the city of North Canton a charter amendment for the purpose of permitting council to call charter review commissions more frequently than every 10 years. So it's nice that we're able to, if we need it in a year, we might need it in 3 years. You know, it's nice that we can call that committee back.
yeah, I think it's a great idea. I think if nothing for the past 2 years has shown us that business is entirely different. And so we need that flexibility to be able to ask those questions to our constituents.
Didn't we just do this though? Like, how did we, it hasn't been 10 years since our last one, has it?
2000.
So how did we,
Seven.
Or 17,
Every year,
I'm sorry.
ending in 7.
2017.
so how did we just do this one?
Well, we can, it's a great question.
Sorry, I don't understand.
The charter prescribes on a 10-year cycle, charter review commission comprised of 16 citizens, 15 citizens. That's method 1. Method 2 is the council can, by its own initiative, propose to the voters changes in the charter. You just simply do it through the committee process, place it on the ballot. What we have here with John and Ben is that we had sort of a hybrid. We had parts of our professional team, and then we had a group of citizens that vetted the suggestions and discussed them. That's how we arrived here. So what we had was a much smaller group. You should note that, excuse me, one of the distinctions is that no members of council or city officials may be part of the Charter Review Commission. All right, it's truly to be citizen driven. This was a hybrid based upon the need to modernize, make more efficient our operation.
So the power being exercised is council's power to submit.
That is correct.
Last year when we were drafting this, then Member Stroya and then Vice President Revolt, who were the lead people driving the drafting of that, made it very clear they wanted citizen participation. So that's where the
Okay.
sort of small vetting committee came in, was created to advise council, because council wanted to make sure there was direct citizen input.
Okay.
So
This gives us permission to call for basically what we just did minus council involvement.
Yes.
Yeah. For all citizens.
yeah, it's hybrid. Hybrid.
Now, let's say this charter committee is being dismissed in July, correct?
Correct. It will cease to exist July 1st.
So when they were assigned, it was just a temporary position. So let's say we want to have the committee come and revisit some things. How do we go about doing that? Like, would it be a hybrid or
No.
15 or 16 citizens?
Your commission, the charter is pretty clear about how your commission is to be, what compromises your commission. And again, that commission of 15 will consist of citizens only. And the charter specifically prohibits members of the administration, council staff, et cetera, from participating in those deliberations.
Okay.
And then the next step of the process would be that commission would make recommendations to the council. The council would then debate those
Right.
and decide by vote whether to place them on the ballot. So the commission does not have absolute authority. It still needs to move through the legislative process.
When would we pick these 15 or 16 people? If we wanted, at the council, we'd have to get the commission picked first, then,
I think you'd probably have an enabling vote to say, we want to do this, and we're going to authorize the creation of the commission. And then you would set up, as we did earlier, then you'd set up a set of dates for the beginning of the deliberations and discussion, and then you'd have a terminal date. And it's to have, you might give them whatever the charter says.
For a normal 7-year, they are called together in January. I believe they have until May.
Yeah,
4 or 5 meetings. So, all right, just room for conversation, and then trying to find 15 or 16 might be the hardest part, you know.
we've had great success and not so great success.
But
But I think, again, it underscores the importance that and I think we all appreciate this, the charter of the city of North Canton is it's granted by the citizens.
right,
And ultimate political authority rests with the citizens.
all right. Well, any other discussion on this? Make a motion, we push it through there. Get it through.
Second.
Hey, Ben, would you call the roll?
Member Waring?
Yes.
Member Wyrick?
Yes.
Member McLeister?
Yes.
Member Orr?
Yes.
Member Matheny?
Yes.
Member Revolt?
Yes.
Member Stroya?
Yes.
7 in favor, motion carries.
Thank you, Ben.
I believe I'm through.
Come on.
Moving on to water, sewer, and rubbish. Jamie?
How about personnel and
No,
safety?
we
Oh,
got
I'm sorry.
personnel and safety.
Dave Matheny's big moment.
Personnel and safety.
Talking about vacations.
All right. Give me a second to pull this back up and was hoping to get. So administration has put together an excellent list of changing the accrual of vacation time. So instead of vacations being given out on January 1st to all employees based on years of service, it's going to go to an accrual basis that will allow it to accrue as they work throughout the year. So if I can pull up that page, it shows that on a biweekly basis, as they get paid, there are a number of hours that they qualify for vacation within accrual. It actually works out better for the employee. It's more consistent with those groups that are under contract, negotiated contract. And it makes it easier, I believe, for our finance team to keep track of the vacation time as it accrues. It sets up that the maximum amount that they can accrue is 2 years worth of vacation time that they can carry over, and then it's paid out on a quarterly basis after that. That allows them to keep vacation in a bank, but at the same time, it limits the amount that they can keep based on years of service. And then the other thing, which is probably the greatest benefit for our employees, is allowing them to schedule vacation time in 15-minute increments. They may not need a full 4 hours or a full day or a half a day, that type of thing. This allows them the flexibility to be there if their family needs them for just 15 minutes, or if they have a doctor's appointment, they only need an hour instead of scheduling full time, or full days or partial days, which also helps the department managers in their staffing. So that's kind of a broad overview. I think Mr. DiOrio might be able to add a little bit more to that. I think it's going to benefit all the employees and the city in many areas.
I think all that I would add is to augment one of your points is that our intent is to have this in place for all collective bargaining agreements, so that it's uniformly applied to all employees throughout the city. So we've started that process, and there's another contract up here that we're going to start on shortly for the water treatment plant operators. And I think once we get those done, we'll be putting together memorandums of understanding with the other bargaining units to get them all in place by January 1.
Now, we eliminated that old term, use it or lose it. They will, if they don't use it, it's then paid out.
Correct.
So win. Very good, thanks.
So I did have one question on how this works as we're going through this. So if somebody's in a holiday week, is overtime paid at over 8 hours, or is overtime paid over 40? And is there any way in this process that they can schedule vacation time and actually qualify for overtime in the same week that they're taking vacation time?
Please.
Help me here.
Please.
Remember, this is the exemption.
Correct. And across the contracts, though, the contracts are different.
Yes, but this is specifically for
For
those
the
that are not
exempt,
under
a
agreement.
vacation day may not be used or charged on a holiday. You cannot get both. If they are called into work, then it is overtime.
That helps. And then the only other question I had is the pay for the vacation that is carried over for 2 years is paid at current rate, and the reason why it's not paid at the rate that it was earned.
When it's paid out, it's paid at current rate. We have never gone back. Is it a LIFO? Do you use last in, first out, first in? So when it is used or when it is paid, it's at that rate, their rate at that time.
Thank you. Anybody else? Thoughts, comments, or concerns? Mr. Revolt?
Do you need a motion to move this forward?
Okay.
Revolt will move.
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to water, sewer, and roads. Jamie?
All right, now it's my turn, so. All right, well, I think we all are aware of what we saw here just a couple weeks ago on Saturday the 14th as far as the abnormal amounts of rain and kind of where that put us. And so I think we as a council, we're looking for any sort of an update or information that the administrative team is able to share with us. So at this point, I'm going to pass things off to Mr. Diorio.
Thank you, Mr. McLeister. So we're going to do a little slide show that is very, very brief so that you can understand exactly how succinct and direct this approach is. So my approach as the administrator in looking at a number of the things that we have had to tackle, and I do appreciate that everybody who came forward and continues to come forward to this day with the information that helps us get a handle on it. You know, I understand the frustration for many in this regard, in that for a long time there was a period of either no action or no communication from the city as to what to do about various problems. That's not me. So I've adopted this approach that's, largely in many places throughout the private sector. And it has served me well in the 5 years that I've been administrator. So I thought it would be good to just share with council how I go about tackling something of this magnitude. So this is going to be an acronym, DIRE. It's actually pretty spot on, dire. So in this case with the flooding is very dire circumstances. So what does the D stand for? Diagnose the problem. That actually means getting out and talking to people. It means you coming up here and talking to us, but myself, the mayor, my administrative team, we have been to all of the sites and new sites that keep coming in. We go out to, I spent every day going out to sites to talk to people, to walk the site, to get an understanding of what is going on, to diagnose what is the problem. And then many times in the past, I think that was just never done. Nobody went out. It just fell through the cracks, whatever the excuses were. But that's not the case here. So we will be in contact and we'll be out to see every single site and to diagnose what is the problem. Now, after you diagnose it, you have to initiate a response. So I'm not sure if this is where the city may have failed in the past either, in that they didn't do anything. So we've already started the initiation of response. So I put together a phone call that's about to come in. If that's the president, let him know. I'll get back to him. No, but we put together an internal team that is meeting weekly on this issue. We've already met twice. We're going to meet every week for the next 4 months to see how much we can get through, and we'll keep meeting beyond that to handle any new complaints that come in over the summer. So on regards to, say, for instance, on Democracy Circle, I can report that we've diagnosed a problem and we've initiated this response. We felt that the streets there had insufficient catch basins. There are presently 2. So we're increasing that to 5. And that work is beginning as we speak. So we think that this will be a great help in most rain events. Will it resolve a super rain event? We'll see. But if we keep this approach for whoever occupies this chair after I go, you should always be able to stay on top of it as we get to the next thing. So in addition to holding on to the initiate response, on 5th Street Northwest, we've taken the approach that to remedy that problem there quicker, we've gone to outside contracting and to get that done rather than wait on internal crews. We only have so many people that we can dispatch, and they have other responsibilities, so we didn't want that to wait. So that's going on. A third thing that we've initiated a response on is in the 9th and 10th Street Northwest area. We will be conducting in the next few weeks ahead smoke tests. We've placed the order for the materials that are be delivered to us shortly, I should say, and then we will initiate at the appropriate weather time, and this will help us to determine if any storm discharge is being directly connected to our sanitary lines. So that will reveal to us where we may have some issues that we need to get resolved. We've also, in some instances, have reached out to Stark Soil and Water for clarification on natural waterways, whose responsibility it is for restoration of natural waterways. And we've also reached out to the Army Corps of Engineers and asked for their assistance to come in as it relates to natural waterways. So that's a separate. So part of this process in diagnosing the problem has been to separate this out into different categories. Not everybody's issue is the same issue, but there are multiple instances of things in different categories, and being able to deal with that and get a hold of the appropriate authorities. And so we will be communicating to, for instance, the Sanctuary Homeowners Association that, as it relates to west branch of the Nimishillen Creek that runs through the sanctuary, that pursuant to determination from Stark Soil and Water, that is the responsibility of the Homeowners Association for restoration of that water. So that was initiate response. So we've started that process. The next one, the R, is to resolve the issue. Seems commonsensical, but often I found in government that doesn't always work. The purpose of doing something is to resolve the issue. And if that didn't work, then it needs to go back to diagnose the problem, initiate the response, resolve the issue. You don't just, we'll walk away from it, so to speak. So we are working on those, and as these things happen, we'll know whether or not we've been able to resolve these issues. Some of the things that we'll get in place, we won't know until the next rain event, whether the issue has been resolved or not. But we will keep a catalog of this, and we have been mapping, as you know, at the previous council meeting, where these things occur. And we will be building a database of information that will help future councils and future administrations look back at this. I can tell you that in my going out to meet with individuals that have lived here for decades and hearing from them directly the stories of things that have been done in the past, I can tell you that we lose a lot of institutional knowledge from our employees. And there really hasn't been a very good effort, in my opinion, over the decades to capture that information. That goes back to, just listen for just a second, when we talk about the line of succession in each of the departments, and it's getting some structure in place where when number one goes, number two's been there for a while and understands that, and then they move maybe to number one and somebody else in the rank and file moves up, and we have a way of retaining that knowledge for as long as possible. So I learned a lot about the city and some of the things that have been done in the past that we wouldn't have been able to ascertain just from looking at a record. Next, evaluate the solution. So even if we do something and it was successful, we need to have an evaluation of whether or not it was effective, if it was cost efficient, is there a better way that we could have handled it? And implement that and roll that out into the next grouping that we're working on. So it's never just to, the old Ron Popeil, set it and forget it. That, may have been the approach in the past, but that is not the approach today. For instance, then we've began a work on the sanitary line, as you know, on the 10th Street Northeast Street corridor. And we believe, through engineering and whatnot in the past, that this 10th Street Northeast sanitary improvement, by putting a whole brand new line in there that's completely watertight, waterproof, not collapsed, or anything wrong with it for a vast stretch of feet, 400 feet, that it's going to improve the sanitary situation on the near northeast side, 10th Street, Hull Road. We have a lift station there. And we should be monitoring then, how often that lift station runs. And if it runs too much, that means that there's something not right and that we should do something about it. We will be monitoring that once this project is complete. As another means of things that we don't often get talked about, processes that we incorporate into basic projects. So the 7th Street Northeast repaving, prior to the repaving, we rebuilt all the catch basins. So, could have opted not to, but it wouldn't have been the prudent thing to do, being that we were going to pave that road. Let's do it right and replace them all so that we don't have that problem. And there were many that were in need of repair. I mean, they are concrete and they do wear out. So that is the approach that we take. It's the Dyer approach. We diagnose the problem, initiate a response, resolve the issue, evaluate the solution. And we do it over and over and over and over again until it's resolved. I intend to, every week, come back at our council meeting, whether it's through committee or through regular reports, to give an update as to what we've done during the week, what we've looked at, and keep it going throughout the rest of the year. Questions from council?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Ben.
Jim, anything else?
No, unless there's any questions for Mr. DiOlio. I don't think I have anything further. And thank you for the update.
Okay. All right, moving on to, so I wanted to bring up the rules of council again. The 5 incoming members, I wanted to give people a chance, and, every once in a while, I wanted to bring this up to discuss the rules. So this is an open discussion. If you guys want to address any of the rules, they were attached in the packet. This is your opportunity to weigh in.
Is there something you wanted to focus on in particular? Or?
I have a couple of notes, but I want to start it as open and see if anybody wants to weigh in. I know every once in a while we have a thought that comes about and we haven't changed any, so this is our opportunity to do that.
I know we had one meeting, and it was regarding recognition, I guess, of the public, and then us having conversations with them back and forth. And I think that does get confusing at times, because they'll say, something, and maybe, I think this one was someone from the Realtors Association, and it was just confusing because you wanted to ask a question at that moment. So maybe that's something. And I think at Rule 38, it says there should be no debate, but I know that night we were conversing, and maybe
Sure.
on that point, and maybe Daryl, you would know this, could we at that point motion to allow the debate to occur or allow questions to be answered? Is that what we would do? Okay.
guess under recognition of visitors, there are really two kinds of visitors that we have who stand before us. The first would be what I would consider your citizen who's here to comment on an item or of his or her choosing. Open mic Monday. The second would be an expert that we've invited to come in for the purpose of having a dialogue with council. So, you know, there are two. I think you may want to make sure you differentiate between item A and item B. I think the other element is that there are some statements made that at the podium that are so egregious that they demand an instant response. They simply can't stand. And I say that because the Ohio Supreme Court, for example, recognizes, has a set of rules for attorneys. And that attorneys, when they appear before City Council, are to conduct themselves according to the highest ethical standards. We have our rules. And I would argue that there have been instances when we've had speakers who have not conducted themselves to the highest ethical standards. Granted, they're not attorneys.
Well, and I remember one time you responded, and I think that you had asked Council President, would it be okay if I respond immediately?
39. So that's addressed in 39. We're okay on that.
Yeah.
Well, and 32, when you talk about the different things that, you know, in engaging in violence, threatening behavior, offensive language, defamatory or slanderous, insulting or attempting to provoke another person. I think the past council presidents have been pretty good about that. And Chief Kemp is now in our presence and has really made it a point to be here so that if we have to remove people, we do. So that's good.
If we go back to the realtor who spoke, she was not invited
Right.
by the council, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, that's correct, John. I would, I'm glad you raised that because that realtor was here in a professional capacity. She was not a citizen.
Right.
And I hold the representative of a professional organization who appears to influence legislation to the same standard that I hold an attorney. I expect that individual to be prepared, to be truthful. And I'm not suggesting that she was not truthful. It's just that her comments were incomplete. And for an individual to helicopter in to a meeting when we're voting without having touched base with the administration, the council president, and ask us simply to delay, I think is inappropriate. Does not comport to a high standard of conduct, professional conduct, in my view. It's only my view. I don't expect anybody else to share that.
Do we need to change the rules that we have put up on the screen?
What would you add?
Yeah.
I don't know.
That professional conduct
I don't know.
and then.
Yeah, but I think professional conduct would be
Yeah,
open
who
for
decides?
interpretation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
The rules are pretty clear.
I think so too.
And
I
we
think they
did
are.
change them recently.
okay.
And Matt, you now state them and they're up there and
I mean, frankly, I don't think we've had an issue with those rules, at least in the short few months that, the four of us new people have been on.
You know, we all miss things with the rule. couple council meetings before I called for a point of order, it wasn't accepted. You know, we all make mistakes, but, I think we're learning, the four of us, and I appreciate an opportunity we're having now to learn.
Yeah, I mean, I've read through them again to see if there's anything we need to expand upon. I would say the only thing that I would say, if we have a speaker that wants to speak more than 5 minutes, how do we take care of that? Because it's not addressed in our rules. So let's say Acme, when they were speaking.
Multiple representatives.
Right. But, they were in making their point, whatever. So let's say if it's another similar circumstance where we want to hear more of what they're saying.
But they came at the third.
Could we-
they came at the-
Here's what I would recommend.
Yeah.
If it appears that speakers' comments have merit, they are not complete. I would leave it to the discretion of the council president.
Okay.
Or if you want to call a vote to allow a couple more minutes, I think that would be appropriate. What you don't want is a long-winded speech that really becomes redundant.
Sure.
And I think the other thing is this too, is that on the issues that we're talking about, every speaker at that podium that I can think of that might fit into that category has an opportunity
Hold on.
to meet with a member of council and meet with the administration. And frankly, that is probably a better approach
Yeah.
than a gunfight at the podium.
Sure.
Give you a perfect example. Let's go back to the realtor's representative. Ask us to delay, provided no specific information. And then met with the administration 2 days later, which nothing came of the meeting. But the point was that an additional time period was not warranted.
I think 5 minutes is plenty. I think in most conversations, and if you're at a board meeting or if you're speaking, who lose interest after 2 to 3 minutes? And we have a healthy public speaks allotment. In Canton City, you have 3 minutes. In other entities, you have that amount of time, and it is very focused on what is there. And really, they can come up to any of us afterwards. We all are sitting here. They can talk to us then, they can talk to us before. And I didn't hear from the Acme individuals before the meeting.
Or after, I gave them
Yeah.
both my cards.
We were all
and-
here. So I would say, I think it gets very subjective. And then I think you have other people that say, well, you let them speak, why didn't I get to speak? And it becomes this, or we don't need it that. I think 5 minutes is sufficient.
I think you're right.
The only other one that has been discussed previously has been name and address. Do we want to continue to
Yeah.
make people wait
Absolutely.
for a name?
Yeah.
And if so, should it be residential address?
Well,
Because I know a lot of times people are saying, I'm from 25 Belden Village. I know they don't live on Belden Village.
Right.
That's where their company is.
I'm fine with either. I think if it was the Acme individuals, it makes sense. And I don't remember what they
A.
said. I think
Altman
they
was
actually
one
said,
that had,
yeah,
It's
wherever
happened.
their business is, or they're a citizen. I don't care.
What's everybody else think?
Name and address.
Any other discussions?
I'm glad you brought this up.
Yep.
I think
Yeah,
they're
I'd
great
like
to
to
bring
bring
it
it
to the
up.
forefront.
So it's good to review.
Yeah.
It's a given opportunity.
in other cities and stuff, is public speaks always one of the first things, or do they move it to the end of the meeting?
Or what?
Public speaks, open mic.
For the order, are you talking about?
Yeah, is it usually in the first part of the meeting or is it at the end?
Yeah, it's
thought it was in the
almost
beginning.
always at the, after the prayer.
Well, of course, somebody was sick.
Right, yeah.
I've seen it either at the beginning or some other entities split it as if you're talking about something on the agenda, you're at the beginning of the meeting. If you're talking about something not on the agenda, you're at the end.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you guys all for coming, staying. Appreciate it.
We'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
We'll move adjournment.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Opposed?